Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joel here, and I am back for Ball Python story time. That's right. Today, I'm going to share with you a story about the best ball python purchase I ever made. There's a lot that goes into it, so this is going to be a fun story for me to tell, and I hope you enjoy it. But before we get into ball python story time, let me just take a minute, please, and point out the organization USARK. You've probably seen me wear this shirt a number of times in videos. If you've ever seen me at the reptile shows, you see me supporting USARK. And I just wanted to kind of put a plug in. I'm not compensated in any way, shape, or form for this endorsement. I'm not directly affiliated with USARK at all, but the United States Association of Reptile Keepers is the primary organization that lobbies and fights for our rights, mine and yours, as keepers of not only reptiles, but all kinds of exotic animals. And there's just a lot of crazy things going on across the country, people trying to take away the right for us to own and love and care for these exceptional, amazing creatures. So I just want to put a plug out there because there's so much going on. Please check out USARK if you have not in the past. Support them if you're able financially, but there are other ways to support as well. You can be a part of what's going on in your area. Through their notifications and stuff and the things that they monitor, I've written letters to my congressmen and senators and things like that because of some of the crazy laws that have been tried to be pushed through in my state, and they're typically done in really sneaky, underhanded, and honestly despicable ways. So anyway, I won't go on and on about that, but I just wanted to point out there's some crazy stuff going around in places around the country right now, especially if you live in Washington State. But there's just a lot that it would benefit the entire reptile community if we band together and support USARK and use our voice as they inform us about what's going on in Washington and in local governments across this nation. So enough about that. Let's jump back into ball python story time. And I have my co-star with me here today. This is Hera. She is, well, I'll tell you what she is as we get into the story because it's kind of evolved over the years. But I would have to say, if I had to point to the best deal I've ever gotten on a ball python, it would be this beautiful girl here. So how does this start? Well, we have to go back a few years. You can see she's full grown. I got her, she was about a yearling, about a year old when I got her, but the circumstances were a little abnormal. So let me try and paint the picture for you to establish a setting, if you will, which is perfect or absolutely necessary to any good story. You have to understand the setting. So this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, probably about 5 years ago. And I was still pretty new, getting back into breeding. I had owned snakes for many years in the past. But man, she's got a grip on me. I had really just started breeding back. I think at the time that I made the purchase for her, I think I had 8, maybe 9 snakes at the time, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that realm. So I was just getting started. I had recently started a brand new job, and so I actually took a pay cut to try and get a job that was ultimately going to be better for my family. And so money was tight. It was tough times, and I was trying to also start hobby breeding with the hopes of maybe a business someday with these ball pythons. And my wife has always been very supportive, but let's just say the snakes are not really her thing. And man, she's got me locked up. She's like a professional MMA fighter here. She's got me locked up trying to submit. Anyway, so during that time, around the time that I was starting, it became known that someone well-known in the ball python and reptile community got cancer. I'm not going to say his name or anything like that. I don't want people thinking I'm trying to shout somebody out for views or anything like that. But this person got cancer. One of the things I absolutely love about the reptile community is people really rally to help those within the community. And so as this young man had cancer, someone established an auction site to benefit him with donations of varying amounts going to support his fight for cancer. And I followed along at the site, but it wasn't really something I could participate in a lot. But then one day, the auction site had actually kind of gone dark for a while. I think it had kind of run its course. A lot of money was raised. The treatments were done, and it was actually a great story because that young man is now doing great. He's cancer free. But one night I'm watching TV with my wife, and I'm kind of messing around on Facebook, and I see this listing on this auction page for a GHI female ball python that's a year old. And I get excited because I've always wanted one, and the pictures were absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at this girl. She is beautiful. I love her to death, especially when she goes into shed. She looks so awesome. But anyway, so I see this auction for this GHI female that's a year old, and the seller was actually covering the shipping. And I'm like, oh man, this is sweet. I really wish I had some money that I could spend to bid on this animal, especially knowing the cause that it's going to support. But I didn't have it. So I may have put myself in a little bit of a tenuous situation, because I figured, well, I'll put in a low bid that I know will never win, and maybe that'll kind of jumpstart things and trigger other people to bid so that somebody can get a great animal and the money will go to a good cause, and it won't hurt anything because I'm just going to put the money in there, even knowing that I don't have any budget to buy snakes right now. Well, funny enough, somehow that bid that I never thought would won. I think it was like $80 or $85. Okay, something very low, definitely a lot less than the animal was worth, which wasn't intentional. I wasn't just trying to get this great deal. I didn't have the money to spend, but I was just trying to get something going. And I remember seeing one night that I actually won the auction, and I was like, oh. I really wanted to be excited, but my wife was sitting in the chair next to me, and I knew she wasn't going to be very happy about it because, like I said, we didn't have the budget for it, and I had started a new job. I wasn't making a lot of money at that point. I was making less money than I had been used to, and so it was a tenuous situation. So I kind of looked over her with a weird smile on my face, and I said, hey, hypothetically speaking, if I were to say, put a low offer in on a reptile auction that I knew would never win, and it actually won, how much trouble, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much trouble would I be in? She didn't answer the question. She just looked at me and said, how much did you spend? So anyway, ultimately, I survived. It turned out okay. It really wasn't, it was a great price. Like I really, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. I think I almost apologized to the breeder for it being so low because I didn't think I would ever win. But they were completely cool. They fortunately were not too far away, and shipping hadn't gotten crazy with all the COVID stuff yet, so shipping was still reasonable. But they shipped the animal to me. I sent my donation directly to the GoFundMe for the individual it was benefiting, and I got this beautiful girl. Now, there's a lot of story here, so I hope you hang with me, but this isn't part of the best deal story. It's just something funny that happened along the way. So I was working in the office, and this girl was being delivered. I had her delivered to the office because obviously I was working and my wife didn't want to take delivery. So there's a guy in my office who's about 400 pounds and 6'4", and he is terrified of snakes, like terrified. So I had to check and make sure he wouldn't be in the office that day. And I had the snake delivered to the office. So it was just me and one of the administrative young lady working, and the snake arrived, and I decided to unpack and check on her right away, of course, as we do. I was so excited to see her and introduce her to this young lady who wasn't scared. She's not really into them, but she thinks they're pretty and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm showing her off, and as I'm like looking at her, I realize, looking at the back end, that she's just been traveling. And if you've ever had a snake shipped to you, a lot of times the stress makes them ready to relieve themselves. So I could tell she was about ready to blow. And so I was like, oh, let me put her back in the bag real quick. And I'm not joking, y'all. As I go to put her in the snake bag, out of her back end, she shoots, you can imagine, all the mess. Everything that she'd been holding inside, she shoots it 15, 20 feet across the room. It was impressive. Thankfully, the administrative assistant just bust out completely laughing. I was kind of mortified and yet it was funny at the same time. But if you've ever had something like that happen to you, you know these guys, they really can create an odor. So anyway, I had to run her home. We had to clean the office. Thankfully, it was just the two of us there, and she thought it was hilarious, so it went over okay. But that's how I got introduced to my precious Hera here. Fast forward a little bit, we raise her up. She's one of our favorites for sure. She was our first like real darker morph other than like a wild type pattern. And like I said, when she goes into shed, she just looks so amazing. So we really enjoyed growing her up, anticipating the day when we could breed her. Now, as I said before, she was sold to me as just a GHI female. And I remember walking around expos and things, looking at other GHIs and thinking, dang, she's got to be the best looking GHI I've ever seen. But I really thought, you know, these breeders that produced her and that I got her from, she's moving all over the place, are really, really good at what they do. And I felt very confident that they had ID'd her correctly, even though it seemed to me like there must be something else going on inside. So I got a busy co-star here. So we just raised her up and we bred her for the first time. I think it was first clutch hatched from her in 2021. I think it's 21. I think she took a year off and then she produced for us this past year. But so she produced that first clutch and real amazing. I'm going to see if I can find some pictures of it. I haven't been able to find them yet, but if I can, I'll kind of put it in here so you can see the clutch. But the clutch pipped, and what do I see but an all-white head? And I think, huh. Now I had paired her to my bamboo black pastel pinstripe yellow belly male, right? So I wasn't expecting any white snakes, but lo and behold, I got a blue-eyed leucistic, completely white snake, blue eyes. Of course, there could be other things under the surface, but she's completely patternless. And I'm thinking, huh. So that means there has to be a blue-eyed leucistic gene in Hera. So I contact the breeder, and it took a while getting back and forth. He found the records of the clutch, and we determined that she is actually a lesser GHI. But if you've seen lesser GHIs, a lot of times they have this very almost highway-like pattern where the sides are really washed out and they have a lot of nice yellow contrast down their dorsal stripe, but most of the pattern kind of gets sucked into the dorsal and faded out on the sides. And there were numerous ones in that clutch that had that typical pattern. She didn't. She just looked really awesome for a GHI. So as we do, when you can't say for sure that something's in there, we don't label it. We might say it's possible it has this, but I'm not going to say without a shadow of a doubt it has this gene if I'm not sure. Okay, so that's why they sold her as just a straight GHI. Turns out she was a GHI lesser, and there were several babies in the clutch. Well, at least three in the clutch, two I think, that proved that out, that she was actually did get the lesser gene from her pairing. And so I was like, sweet. So not only did I get a great deal on a GHI female yearling, she's actually a lesser GHI. That's even better. And I got a blue-eyed leucistic from her, and I got one of the most amazing, still one of my favorite animals that I've produced to this day. And it was cool. And I thought, man, I can't believe that I got so lucky to get this girl that cheap, and we've got this mystery gene that showed up. So cool. Well, like I mentioned, she didn't breed the next year. She bred, but she didn't produce for me the next season. She took it off, which was fine. She got big and healthy and strong. And then in 2023, she gave me another clutch of eggs. And you might be able to guess it if you followed the channel at all. She's the reason that this channel got started, even though I wasn't really intending. I actually raised up one of her babies and bred him back to her. He was or is a black pastel GHI yellow belly male. He's right here. And I bred him back to her so that I could produce some super GHI babies. Like, that was my goal. And you probably know where I'm headed with this if you've watched the channel any time at all. That very first clutch. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch the very first video we ever posted. It's been our most popular video by far to date with over 24,000 views. of a surprise clutch. When I cut the eggs, I got the surprise of my lifetime. That's right. I'm going to actually say, if you don't know what the surprise is, you might want to pause this video and go watch that egg cutting video, because it is pretty awesome. It's an amazing surprise. So pause this, go watch the other video, and then come back and finish. But if you've already seen it, or if you're like, I'm not doing that, this story's long enough. This girl's first clutch was 7 eggs, or clutch this year. It was the first clutch that hatched this year. It was 7 eggs. And I'm hoping for some super GHI combos, some beautiful babies. And lo and behold, what happened when I cut that first egg? But I see this. I see this. I cut the first egg, and this is what I see. Does that look like? What does that look like? I was blown. My mind was absolutely blown away. I was like, what is this? This is a pied. I believe, I can't say for sure, I believe this is a super GHI, possible black pastel pied. I think it's a super GHI black pastel pied. I can't say that for sure. She's definitely unique. None of the other babies look like this. But I'm like, oh! So I'm raising her up. You can see she's nice and healthy. She's doing great. Hey, sweetheart, I'm going to feed you later today. Don't worry. And we got this and this, and I had no idea. The original breeder didn't know that she was het pied. She apparently had a het pied gene that was hidden in her somewhere way down the line. It was probably possible hets that just carried on throughout who knows how long and made its way into her. And then not only was that enough that it made it into her, but she passed it on to her offspring, which I then bred back to her last season. And the result was, even though I had no idea that either baby were het for pied, or either parent was het for pied, I got this absolutely stunning girl here. I actually got 4 out of 7 pieds from that clutch, which, if you know anything about genetics, is ridiculous odds to get 4 out of 7 eggs on a het-to-het pairing, but even more so because I didn't know they were het. So without a doubt, this has to be the best deal that I've ever gotten, because not only did she surprise me once with that hidden lesser gene that we didn't know about, but she gave me the ultimate surprise in 2023 when I got a handful of black pastel and GHI combo pieds from a pairing where I didn't know that was even possible. Definitely, a lot of people have told me how lucky I am. I know I don't really believe in luck, quite honestly, but I mean, it was absolutely shocking. If you watch the video, you know just how shocked I was, because I think I was talking like a madman, like a fool, just completely dumbfounded. But I got some of the most beautiful babies. One of them, one of the pieds has sold. Sorry, a bug landed on my face. I still have a black pastel pied, but I'm keeping 2 of the ones that are possible super GHI pied, a male and female. I decided to hang on to them. Absolutely a great investment for me, even though it was kind of an accident. I almost got in trouble, but I guess now looking back on it, I can't be in too much trouble, although I can't hardly move. So that's it. That's the story of Hera. Was GHI, now GHI lesser, now GHI lesser, het, pied, female, and super exciting. I can't wait to breed her again this year. She's already pairing up with, I've got her paired to a banana pied male this year, so we're shooting for some more GHI banana pieds. Well, I've never produced those, but that's what we're shooting for, banana pieds and GHI banana pieds, and anything else that we might get from it, lesser pieds or lesser GHIs, or any of the combinations will look amazing with pied, even without it. So we're really excited to see what she'll do for us this year. She's really doing well. She's gaining weight back, and she's nice and healthy, and she's already locked up at least once or twice this season. So we look forward to what she'll produce. But there you go. There's ball python story time for today about Hera and the best value I ever got in a snake. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I love to read them. And let me just remind you one last time before we end this thing to take the opportunity and share the love of reptiles with anybody you can. Thanks. Have an awesome day.